Can you talk a little bit about this idea of ecclesial anxiety? Because I think even if it's a slightly YouTube made up word, and maybe it's not, I think it latches on to something real. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are really struggling and trying to sort through the various truth claims of these traditions. And so I guess, the question here is, why do you think that is? And what especially is like contributing to that for people?
Yeah, so when we talk about ecclesial anxiety, I think you're right. As far as I know, anyway, I think this is a sort of word unique to our little corner of YouTube. I think the first person I heard use it might have been Gavin Ortland, but I'm not exactly sure there. But yeah, it would just, I guess we're just trying to map onto this reality of people get introduced to church history, people get introduced, maybe they meet a Roman Catholic friend, like I did, in high school with my Roman Catholic best friend, Clayton. We're exposed to these things, and then it becomes, oh my gosh, right? We go from, like I did, oh, please, I'm going to look into this, debunk this over the course of a week, and bring over to my side. And then you open up the can of worms and you're like, oh my goodness, what is this? All right. And there's 2,000 years of church history to wade through and a bunch of philosophical schools and the interaction that different philosophies have with theological claims that are being made. And you're like, oh my goodness, who is right? And I think this can lead, or that especially paired with anathemas, right? Paired with, especially as we'll talk about in a second, I'm sure, a lot of online dynamics, uh, then you have an issue because now it's not only, hey, here is this insanely complex field that you need to navigate and you need to figure out, but also, tiny little thing here. If you get it wrong, then you're going to hell, right? This is the picture that gets painted often online. And it becomes, well, hey, this group anathematizes this group, which anathematizes these other two groups, and so on and so forth. Good luck, right? And we have all these tomes, and there's a reason you see so many of us in this little corner of YouTube with like the million books in the background, right? Is not only does it look nice, but also sometimes you need that many books, right, to even begin to get at some of these issues. And some people are saying, oh my gosh, eternity hangs in the balance. And that can be a very, like weighty thought that people need to consider. And I think that unfortunately is made way worse by online discourse. Um, because, and I think Dr. Jordan B. Cooper, who's a Lutheran theologian that we both know and appreciate, he's been talking about this and sounding the alarm on this for a little bit. And I think he's exactly right. And the problem is the internet and social media, unfortunately, is a disembodied medium of engaging with others and trying to foster a community of one's own. And so it carries a whole lot of disembodiment issues along with it, right? And so what do I mean by that? So I think there's a lot of things that we as people, right, who God created normally, sure, we can write letters and mail those, but normally most of the interactions we have are in person, face to face with other people, reading nonverbal cues, trying to have social awareness, and all of these things. I think there's a lot that we take for granted in our interactions with other people. And the internet has a way of throwing us a curveball there and exploiting some of our worst tendencies and removing some of the sort of delimiting factors, right, that would otherwise keep those tendencies back. And so, for instance, right, so most of us, I would assume, right, if any of us have ever had an experience with a stranger or a friend or family member where we had a vehement disagreement, where the person like took a stand and said, "You were just dead wrong," and had a disagreement with us, odds are that that moment's like engraved in we can picture where we were when that disagreement happened, right? These aren't very common, right? Oftentimes you walk around life and people most of the time are very agreeable and everything's very diplomatic. But online that's just not the case, right? And so you see all these people that show up, especially on a medium like X, or formerly known as Twitter, where you have a very tiny character limit, right? And so what you end up with is, in very few words, people who are speaking as one with authority and authoritative knowledge, often, not all the time, but often anonymous, right? Um, and they're trying either to dunk on somebody else or snipe a different person, catch them in a mistake, or build a following. And so what we end up with is we end up with this situation where we're not used to people vehemently disagreeing with us. If someone vehemently disagrees with us in real life, normally, unless it's some crazy interaction, we actually have the opportunity to maybe sit down, follow up with them later, right? Invite them out for coffee or whatever, further discuss, or hey, here's a new article that I read, or here's a book that I read. Let's talk about this further. We don't really have the opportunity to do that with random commenters online or random people tweeting online. Because a lot of these people are anonymous, we run into the issue of in real life, right? If I walk around in the street I'm plastering my face everywhere and I'm saying, well, hey guys, I'm the authoritative voice on this issue. I know so much about this issue, and people find out that I know absolutely nothing about it, right? That's going to create issues for one's reputation, and it's going to then decentivize you from doing something like that again. Online, that doesn't happen. If you get debunked horribly online, like you were just completely full of it, and you're an anonymous figure, or even if you weren't, you can just close out that account and make a new account and rinse and repeat, right? And I think the human brain and the human mind, I just don't think we're equipped usually to be dealing with those realities that have been introduced by the internet. And so someone who's already anxious and saying, man, I'm only starting to learn. I don't know what I don't know about these very important and very complex questions. Well, let's see what other people have to say on the internet about this. And bam, right? They're met with everything that I just described and more. People that are rage baiting, people that are just content farming, right? And click farming because they're making money off of things. Additionally, something that I've been trying to sound the alarm on as well is now we have studies that have been conducted. There's one recently, I think it was University of Zurich, but I might be getting the place wrong. People can look it up though, where they did an experiment on like Redditors, where they had AI bots go in and talk to Redditors and try to change their minds, and they were on average receiving far more interactions than the average real user, and far more medals and comments saying that they had changed other people's minds. Even if the AI was, as we all know, as it currently happens in the year of our Lord 2025, whether the AI is hallucinating and giving completely false information or whether it's saying whatever, the problem with being online is, again, you don't know what you don't know, and then you're met with people speaking authoritatively without consequences if they're wrong. You have bots, so maybe not even people that you're interfacing with, right? And then the final thing I'll say on that is you end up also with a situation where your view of reality begins to be warped. So recently, I put together a Substack article, which was originally a thread on X, going over some of the latest data from the Pew Research Center on conversions, right? Because everyone's been talking, and you see all these op-eds about the massive conversion waves. Young people are flocking to Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and then you look at the data, and the data says the exact opposite, right? That they lose way more people to Protestantism, so-called, as we'll talk about later, I'm sure, than we ever do to them, right? And so I saw so many people that were like, "But what are you talking about?" But I see my timeline flooded with conversion stories all the time. And what I think a lot of people don't understand when they're already anxious is that they're going on social media, the things that we gravitate to that keep our attention longer are things that actually make us feel unpleasant emotions. So whether it's anxiety, especially anxiety, or whether it's anger, right? Those are the big two, anxiety and anger. Those will keep you on the platform a lot longer than something that makes you happy and you go, oh, that's neat, and you scroll on, right? Because you read a comment and you're like, this is ridiculous. What are other people saying about this? And you open the comment section and you scroll and you're like, surely someone will debunk them, and you keep going. And so what happens is your algorithm then begins to say, right, it doesn't differentiate between things that make you happy and mad. It's not like the social media algorithm sentient and wants to make you mad. No, it's just saying, okay, this type of post is making this person stay on here longer. So let's show him or her more of these posts, right? And suddenly, next thing you know, your algorithm is nothing but conversion stories, if that's what's making you anxious and that's what's making you stay on longer. And it may make you think, oh my goodness, everybody's converting, right? And there's that added now pressure, that peer pressure of like, oh my goodness, everyone that I'm running into online, my entire feed, everyone's flocking to these traditions. There must be something I'm not seeing, right? And we're just not equipped to do this. If we run into, the way that I said is if I introduce you personally to 2,000 people in real life, like if I have you, Austin, shake hands with 2,000 people in real life, you'd go like, oh my goodness, I just met an insane amount of people, right? But 2,000 compared to the population of America, right? Relative to that, that's nothing. It's a drop in your bucket. But if I funnel 2,000 individuals or more or even less than that, frankly, 1,000, a couple hundred, all pipeline directly fed to your For You page, to your feed, you're going to be convinced there is nothing but these type of people around. And so it warps reality. It warps your ability to actually engage with the relevant issues, and it makes people a lot more anxious.